All right, good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, February 4th. What a big risk-on day that we had today in the market. Performance for the S&P was, let me switch over here. Let me get this window out of here. Was one S&P up 1.5%. The Q's up 2.3%. You can see I've got that highlighted. Huge outperformance there for the day for out of Q's and tech. The diamonds were up 1.4%. IWM also held in there right in line with what the S&P did for the day, up 1.5%. Also similar move after the open. Now these things, went up a little bit, which is nice because a lot of times we see gap up days like we had today are sometimes very difficult to trade. But it gave you some trading opportunities, and there was definitely some things with momentum today that you could have tackled after the open. The main point, again, as well, is that these moves in the market, a lot of them come in the overnight markets, right? That's something that we started off the day talking about, that if you look past, 20, 30 years, I know Sediment Trader on Twitter has a lot of studies out about how the majority of these moves do take place in the afternight markets. So that is where the majority of money is made. So that's sometimes how you have to think about positioning. I know for some that they want more control than that, and they do a little bit more day trading. But it just is what it is. More money is made in the overnight markets. So let's talk about a couple things for today. So first of all, I had my where I work, which was down in a WeWork downtown. I had internet outage, so I had to leave my New York City downtown office and move and get back to my home office. So I was out midday today, but which is fine. I didn't really need to do any more trading. I think how I was positioned was the right way. I'll tell you, I was not expecting a day like this. The China markets really rallied very hard. Just remember how that works too. If China is up big overnight, I think the reason why I spend a minute here is because I think a lot of retail traders are focused solely on the U.S. They don't look at this, but this was what really got us off to a good start, was the Shanghai up 2.6%. Remember, a lot of the dip that we've had of the last couple of weeks has been related to the coronavirus and worries about that. So, China, remember when they were closed, was down 8%. So they've been coming back pretty strong since they've returned. And since we're hearing more things about maybe some of the cases that are being reported are coming in at a decreasing rate. I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. I haven't been super analyzing the numbers, but that's just a little bit about what I've seen. But all in all, and you can see Europe was up almost 2% as well. But all in all, I mean, this was a big surprise for me. If you listen to my video yesterday, I always give myself a pat on the back when I get things right. But I think, in this sense, I've been really playing conservative. And I've been adding things, and I've been talking about doing that, names that I really like. Like yesterday, I bought some AMD, which was my first entry into AMD, I think, after they reported earnings. And just things like that. I've been making adjustments, right? I've been trading more stock than options, although I think options would have worked quite fine today with today's momentum. But I've been kind of fine tuning, making adjustments, and so forth, and being more conservative. And as I always say, not getting over the tips of my skis with the way that volatility has been up. And volatility came in today, was down. Why is this not? Must have something. Again, I'm on a slightly different spreadsheet in my home office than I am at my work. But you can see the VIX was down 10% today, and I think it finished just under 16, was it? No, it finished at 16. So it's still kind of present, volatility. We may not be, completely out of the woods. And of course, I don't think we are with what's going on in Asia and still business is shutting. But there was that good news that Apple expects to reopen their suppliers, manufacturers as well in about a week too. So, again, what I've been talking about over the last week is how that most of these places have been taking a lot of precautions. I thought that was a good thing. I know that's scary, and I think a lot of Twitter and a lot of, on TV, they make it sound like it's a bad thing. I think that the fact that they were taking a lot of precautions and shutting things, even though it's going to disrupt things in the short term, very good step to take for more than just a couple weeks out, right? So before they had a handle on everything, you shut everything down, and that's still going to linger for a while. So I don't think that's behind us yet, but as I said in the weekend video, these things, they come out and it looks scary, but when you kind of take a step back and think about it, my view it's actually positive that they're doing all these things and can do them so quickly and stop flying so that they can work on exactly what they're dealing with and go from there. So again, my point, as I've been saying the last few days, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. But there's a lot of scare tactics on Twitter, so it is what it is. So where did we end up here with the S&P today? And then I'll go over what we traded and how we fared today. But we're actually back. I mean, I was saying yesterday that there was no conclusions based on yesterday with an inside day, and that's what made it, I think even more for me, surprising, because I didn't have a lot to really hang my hat on yesterday to say, oh, this looks bullish and that looks bullish. But really, impressive day, impressive green candle from low to highs. Notice we're right at the top of February value, very close to breaking below value just yesterday morning, and possibly breaking down here. But we held the 50-day moving average, we held the bottom of value, and now we're pushing to the top value. And notice we're back above these candles too, so that looks like a really good candle. It really does. Breadth was also strong throughout the day. There was no major hiccups like we saw yesterday, which breadth kind of trailed off. But I'll tell you, they don't make it easy, right? Meaning, the market gods, they do make it a little bit, they do try to keep you off balance every day. IWM is now in value. That of course has been the weaker, and the Qs finished with the best here, out to 52-week highs. That's a great thing. There's nothing that you could really come away with negative on that, other than maybe the gap on that. But if you look at NQ, you won't see a gap. The gap is gone. So gaps I don't put that much some faith in, and I do look at them. But if you look at S&P futures, there's no gap. Sorry, if you look at NASDAQ futures, there's no gap there. All right, so what did we trade today? Well, like I said, a lot of things that I had on really worked well. AMD did well, and I took AMD. I like to be a seller of some things right on the open when you have a gap up day, and then you can kind of reassess and be a little bit more mobile. So I did take some things off. I also took Twilio because it hit my upside price target, even though Twilio kept going. I took Twilio off right around 130. But this was a trade that I've been holding on to for about a week. So this thing really did very well. And here's my trades. Here's a blotter of my trades, just so that you can see I'm not making stuff up. Also, Procter and Gamble came back. That was kind of a pain in the neck trade that I added to right at the end of the day. And Procter, some February calls at 41 cents, excuse me. So I was able to take them off for I think for north of 80 cents. There was my Twilio right at 130. I got out of that one. Palladium, I spent some time talking, I believe, in yesterday's video. I thought that this was really interesting. It gave us a signal. It found support at I did go over this in last night's video. 20-day moving average. It's been a long day. Found support at the 20-day moving average and moved outside of value. I took a target at this version point of control, and I'm still holding some. So, I think the Palladium is a great trend. I know the big story was Tesla again today, but hey, here's the chart that I posted in the morning. And I do have this CF commentary, kind of streamlined Slack a little bit, which is what we use, just so that you could see my comments. So if you're a member and you trade part-time, you can kind of come in and see what I was looking at for the day. This is the first chart I posted of the day. This is a chart between Tesla and palladium. Why is palladium interesting? Because a lot of palladium is needed in Tesla's parts and electric car parts, right? So if that's the trend, forget about everything that the dynamics that I'm with a crazy move in Tesla. I still think the theme is intact. More electric, more socially conscious about the environment and so forth. So I think electric cars and palladium is a trend that I want to really focus on. And I've missed this move. I talked about this move in palladium down here when we came back to value, and I never got in this thing. So very happy to squeeze out some profits with that nice move back into the 20-day moving average. So I want to stay long this thing, and so we'll see if I can manage to kind of ride the trend for as long as it lasts. Notice it's still in value. And then the big trade that we talked about pre-market was, and I'll go over the option activity, but it was TTD. This is a name that I've been watching for a couple weeks and just kind of stalking. I actually traded TTD yesterday, and I think I posted that too. It just didn't move enough, and I didn't want to be in a weekly option trade, but there was a reason why I was looking at it yesterday. The thing was just due. It just kept on having these days. Isn't it funny how this works, by the way? You could have basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 days of consolidation. And you just kind of have to monitor it. So, again, my goal, which was perfect today in the morning, was to get in before the option activity. Because if you can get in before the option activity, once you're in and they start buying the calls that they were doing today, because they were buying calls in TTD, I would much rather already be in it than have to chase a name up 3 or 4% and have a bad entry price. But if you could get in before they start buying calls, and how we do that is we do research, when the market's closed, right? I put alerts where I think it's really important on different pivots. And then if the alert never goes off, so if you have 14 days of consolidation, the alert just stays out there. And you don't have to do anything while it's doing this. And then when it goes off, you have to make sure that you act. But here was the move outside of value today. Here was the move first inside value, which I think I had my first alert. I actually had a lot of alerts go off on this thing because I've been watching this for 2 weeks, and I must have overlaid a couple different alerts on this thing. But really nice move. Where I'm holding, so I did take a profit target. I trimmed some of this, and I'm looking at this move up here to about 308 would be another place. But it's now breaking out, so I want to stay long as long as I possibly can. This was day one. Wouldn't it be great if we how do I get out of this? No. I don't use this application to trade, so I have no idea. Maybe over here, charts. Chart. Well, oh, now it's completely gone. All right, well, it is what it is. Maybe if I change the symbol, I don't think it's going to move, but sometimes it takes a minute to figure these. No, that's your that's time and sales. Let's see if there we go. We clicked off of it. All right. So anyway, so yeah, I don't use Thinkorswim to trade. I just use it for charting. So yeah, so that was the trade, and again, that was the only setup that I sent this morning. I sent out a lot of charts on Twitter last night. But the TTD is, and you could see the notes. This is what I said before our pre-market session started at 8:55. I labeled it into where I thought this thing could start to go. And that was the other thing. If you go back to TTD, the trade desk was, I was just looking for this thing to at first get back into value, and then you could kind of go with it. So what else did I have today? I also, a couple other things that I thought were interesting today. Uber is a name that I've been kind of watching for a while. Uber reports later this week, but I wouldn't be surprised if this thing runs into earnings. There's a lot of trades there's a lot of charts that are looking very interesting like this. And sometimes, again, it just takes what we talked about, I think, in the weekend video, is that it just takes sometimes a day or two of price action to all of a sudden you'll start to see a lot of setups brewing. Crowdsource is another one. I did not trade that one, but isn't that interesting? It kind of looks the same. Sony was one name that I traded today. Sony has been a great name. It's well, first of all, it's been in a great trend. I forgot that the name had earnings. They rallied pretty hard after they had earnings last night, but there was a big block of calls that went up. I believe they were March calls. I followed them today. I could have hit a target in it. I didn't. I just figured, hang on, and I didn't put on a huge position in Sony because I always leave myself room to add more calls in case it doesn't go my way right off the bat, or in case there's some other volatility that brings the stock in. But this has been a real nice trend. I'm hoping that this thing, took kind of comes in here, crunched with these two Bollinger Bands, broke higher, did this for a while, hit this VPOC, digested it for a while, went back higher, and now we got another crunch again. And so I'm hoping that this starts another swing in the trade. So that's why I wasn't super anxious to hit a target in that trade. A couple other trades that caught my eye for the day were, so again, market breadth pretty much stayed constant. There's Uber, Sony. These were the results for Sony. Zuo is another one that saw a decent amount of call activity today. Again, playing momentum in this one. If I zoom out here, you can see that this name has been in a long base for a while. So I like that. It's trying to break the base. If we zoom back in, it's above value. It's above the 200-day moving average. Did not close on the highs, which is fine. But I would be interested in this. Remember the last time it reported earnings? Actually, I think it was here. It rallied a little bit, but just hasn't gone anywhere. So someone's positioning. I always get a little bit nervous when I see positioning on a day with big momentum, because sometimes the name just falls flat if the momentum of the market kind of comes out a little bit. But I think that's an interesting one. So other areas that performed really well, solar, believe it or not, up close to 5% for the day, and that was your best performer throughout the day as well. Semis also finished up 3.2%, and Chinese internets, again, most of the Chinese internet names are going to do what they did overnight, not so much during the day. And then once again, oil and energy names just can't get out of their own way. Really, nothing new there. Relative weakness again in the energy space. Did I cover everything else? There was also a lot of FCX. We saw some FCX calls a couple days ago when copper was going down. I didn't take anything there, but I think that would have worked pretty well. Neo, also some follow through. Somebody, people thinking, I don't really understand this too much, but people taking a shot maybe at Neo, thinking that spills over to a smaller name. But if you're looking for pin action there, again, I still think the story with Tesla is the batteries, and I don't know if Neo has anything like that. Docu also saw some calls. A couple other names. Plan. This is a name that I've been long for a while, and this is in the Tribeca Trade Group tactical portfolio. So this is nice to see this name break out as well too. A lot of momentum in the growth names today. All right, guys. So we'll leave it there. Really, really nice day. Again, I was not expecting this type of day from what we saw in market breadth yesterday and inside days, but I positioned the right way for it, and I think I positioned pretty smartly for it. So very pleased with that result for today. Have a great night, everybody, and see you tomorrow.